Hello, welcome to The Balancing Act, the interview series that takes a behind the scenes look at the world of business, exploring how entrepreneurs, executives, team leaders have succeeded and what they learned through the process. I'm your host, Cary Shields. Today we're joined by James Clark, co founder and president of RaveOn Sports. James, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be on. It's a
You're welcome. You're very
nice 5 o'clock time right now.
welcome. That's right. I know. So this is the last big hurdle of the day. If you would, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So our team out here, we're all based in Lexington, Kentucky. I was born and raised here. I've been here all through, you know, high school, college, master's program, and when we started this company. So I'm very much a Kentuckian through and through, and still happy to be here. And it actually kind of goes into why we started the company and kind of our passions around sports, because in Kentucky, there are no pro sports, but we're all huge college fans in this state, as you well know. And so it really kind of, brought our team together through different means and ways, but our passion around the college fan base really is what led into creating RaveOn Sports and the product.
Awesome. Awesome. So with RaveOn Sports, describe it a little bit. Like who are the users, and then I guess who is your market? Like who do you pursue?
So we are a sports technology company that focuses on fan engagement software, specifically for the mobile space. So when we first started on the technology, this was around 2019, we all kind of met the founding team, which all still work together today. We all kind of met through different areas through just mutual connections. And at the time, we were all fairly not happy with the sports landscape for college fans at the time, specifically around how to engage displaced fans away from the home market. So with a lot of, professional sports, they all have their different apps and different things that have engaging tools. So whether or not you live inside of a city, like for Denver Broncos, for example, if you don't live in Denver, there's still ways you can engage in and around the team with other fans outside that area. And there really wasn't any great way of doing that in the college fan base at the time. And that was kind of the original idea and the problem we wanted to solve. So we wanted to give tools to college fan bases who, for the most part, are completely spread out across the country. There's fairly rarely a really limited section of people that sit inside one state and area, because people come into their college town, their alma mater, they become fans of that team. Then whether, they might move away for jobs, family, all the stuff that, life throws at you. And so they really don't stay inside that college town anymore. Maybe they travel for one game a year. Maybe they can't even get access to watch the games because of blackout dates and how all that stuff happens for media contracts. So we really wanted to create that type of solution for them. Because within social media and some of the other engagement apps around it, sports was a part of how those apps work, but it was tailored to sports fans. So we wanted to create something for them. And that's how the very first version of RaveOn Sports was started.
When was that first version? When did you have that out?
So we started building out the software in 2019. It was fairly basic. It was basically around voting on plays, calls, referees in the college market that we focused on football and basketball. And you can still do all that today. So yes, lots of voting and commenting on referee calls for the most part, bad flags, bad calls in basketball, all that good stuff. That all happened. So we started on that software, and then we actually launched everything onto the App Store in 2020.
Okay.
And it was a bad start because COVID hit 6 days after the app launched. So our market went away. There were no games, and if there's no games, there's no engagement around the games for specifically how the software is made at that time. So it was a very rough start. We had all of our marketing planned out, especially in our local area. Louisville sports are big here. Kentucky sports are big, especially that year. The basketball team. This was during March Madness when we were going to launch the app. We had marketing all set up, ready to go with local radio hosts, the whole 9 yards. And then everything got canceled. Tournament got canceled, everything. There weren't sports for, 190 some odd days in the college market. There really was like, they just wouldn't even let people go into the stadiums for almost a year. And there was very little information around when a normalcy might come back.
Mhm.
So it gave us time to try to rethink some things and actually say, okay, well, we had certain features around the app, which is all the voting stuff and being able to follow teams and, look at stats, all kind of the normal stuff that sports apps do. But we said, okay, when things kind of come back to normal, what would be able to set us apart? What would be something interesting that we could do for the displaced fans? Whether COVID's still around or not, people could or could not go to the stadium, couldn't go out to their local place to watch games with friends, all that stuff that would be normal, probably wasn't going to be around in a time period that everyone liked. So we started coming up with the chat room ideas and the engagements around bringing on former players or podcasters, personalities to be in these chat rooms while people could be watching the games and then texting back and forth in a very normal way. And
Right.
yeah, and all that good stuff, but also eliminating the distractions around social media.
Right.
So, Twitter at the time had, some sports feed, Instagram, there was different accounts that maybe followed sports, but it was kind of annoying to a certain extent to
Right.
following along with the game and then be on those different apps, mostly because of how meme culture was at the time. A lot of it was what we called one-way broadcasting. So a lot of it was everybody would post up things and you just kind of hope other people would see them, like them, maybe comment and respond back, but there wasn't real conversation like you would have if you were actually at a game or like watching it with your friends or anything like that. So we eliminated memes and all that stuff. So it's all text-based and there's no audio. There was no audio in there at the time during the game, simply because we didn't want to take away from people watching the game at home. We wanted them to use us as their primary second screen, be talking with other people while that game was going on to engage.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I have to say I can understand that more now. So also from in Kentucky, and my eldest is graduating UK, so you'd probably like to hear that. My
Oh yeah.
youngest was looking at going to the University of Tennessee. I have relatives down there. And so for a short period when she was really excited about that, and so the eldest was getting out of college, the younger was about to go to college, we became, Vols fans for a few weeks, just like, well, let's see what they're getting, let's see how they do them, just I want to know them
Mhm.
just through the year. But in the end, our youngest has chosen to go UK as well, so we've been fully supportive of Kentucky, or at least we will be when she finishes her 4 years. But I can understand that engagement. Whenever I think about football, is probably the only sport I personally get into, and it's a text madness kind of thing, and
Yeah.
you
So
can lose
there's,
time. You lose, like, it's
yeah.
by the time you're responding to it, the play is so old. No one's like, everyone's like, yeah. Anyway, it's hard to stay current in the game with,
Yep.
like you said, Instagram or texting or any of that. It's just a little bit. It's not
Mhm.
quite engaged.
Yeah, we did we built out, so within the voting feature on there, where there's a play-by-play that comes in, so you can vote on all the plays and the fouls and that type of stuff. And within that, there's comment threads. So when there's, lulls in the game, or let's say something really big happens, you can go back to find that exact play and really just talk about that one thing within a line thread, kind of similar to like Reddit, in
Oh,
that sense. And so
yeah.
you can get really granular and say, like, I just want to talk about this one call and how bad it was with everybody. You can find it, talk to everybody, comment through. There's social aspects to the app, so you can follow back with other people. So it will kind of tell you when you log on, hey, it populates up in your home screen, say, this is the game, your people that you follow, your friends are watching, they're commentating on, and that type of thing. And then you can jump right into it real quick.
How do
So we
you?
only push the info that people follow. So if you follow a team or people, it will tell you what's going on. We're not going to send you a bunch of information about teams you don't care about or players you don't care about or anything like that, because that's something else that was really annoying to us uh,
Yeah.
within sports apps for the most part.
How do your clients, your users, find you? Or are they just perusing the app store or looking around, or are there teams saying, "Hey, by the way, you can check us out here"?
Yeah, so the app is live on both Android and iOS stores. It's totally free to download. Anybody can find it there if they're just searching for sports apps and social apps. We do our marketing primarily through our different partners, which at that time, the business models changed a little bit. I'll get to that later.
Okay.
Some things changed in 2021 and 2022. So the app's a little bit different. Now there's additional features. But how we first started off with the marketing was through our connected partners. So if they were former players or podcasters that wanted to be, that that personality for a game, then they would basically contact us. We would bring them on the platform, verify them, and then we would, basically co-market around the game schedules. So that was really kind of the direct to consumer marketing was very much guerrilla marketing. There was nothing. We still have never paid for marketing um, even up till now. And it was really just word of mouth and saying, hey, here is, people that you are fans with, come in, let's have the two-way conversation, create more engagement, promote your products outside of those rooms. There's different links inside the app on profiles. So if people have their Spotify pages, Apple Play, wherever, they can link in Instagram, Twitter, they can actually tweet from the app, which was fun. We actually have podcasters ask us about that and say, hey, I like being on Twitter to do these updates, but I don't want to keep switching back and forth between three different apps. Can you just connect some stuff? So we thought about it and we're like, doable. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
So if you are a verified user inside of those rooms, you can connect your Twitter account. You can then basically tweet out. Well, it's called X now, but you can you can send out those tweets from the game room and it goes straight to their Twitter account it has our hashtags on it, but also theirs from
Okay.
their account. So it's kind of a way of creating a network effect
Hmm.
during the game
Hmm.
and just an additional way of creating the marketing and helping to bring other users on.
That's incredible. That's so great. So I want to cut back on a couple of things. One is, again, the initial launch 2020, and then that boom, you're in a void, and you had to
Mhm.
rethink, I think was the word you used. How did you and, your peers that were, starting this, like, how did you guys come together, bring your thoughts together and work on it? What was the first step? How did you pull yourself through this moment?
The first step was really just trying to decide on how we were going to meet at the time. Because originally we had done a lot of things in person, even though we all were in the same town, we didn't really use Zoom that much. So we had to basically figure out, okay, we're going to be using Zoom a lot now. Let's figure out Zoom or a competitor, like whichever. We ended up with Zoom.
Mhm.
But how do we do virtual rooms, having these meetings, having these discussions safely at the time? And from there, the first question was, all right, what does a timeline look like? And they kind of looked to me a little bit more on that. My background is in sports operations management. So that was kind of my task on that one.
Mhm.
And luckily enough, I still had some contacts in different collegiate side of the world, kind of figuring out who could do what, when, what the timeline might be. And so we knew pro sports would be coming back first. They didn't have a lot of the insurance, so to speak, around getting the value back that they couldn't have from just having no events whatsoever. The
Right.
media contracts and all that stuff, there is certain terms around that. Like you have to have the games in order to get paid for the money. It's not like, you get paid $8 billion over 10 years. And if you don't have any games, you still get to have $8 billion, right?
Right.
So we knew that pro would be coming back first, but soon afterwards, um, college football would figure out a way, at least some of the conferences would figure out a way to have the games. That didn't mean that fans would be coming back, which ultimately didn't matter for us. It was actually kind of, it's a good thing for us.
Right.
Less fans in the stadium mean more fans on their
Well,
phones at home,
right.
TV.
Yeah.
So it's more customers for us. But we knew that football would be coming back. And at the time, we were fairly focused on basketball. That's when we were launching everything. So we had started first on basketball inside the app. And so we quickly kind of had a roundtable discussion, said, okay, is everybody 100% in? Are we going to, do this development push for 3 months? Are we going to be, we're going to fund it? Because we didn't do pre-seed money or seed money. It was very much bootstrapped at the time. And we all said, yes, we're in, let's do it. And we'll kind of figure it out later on. Because we knew that at least the timeline wasn't going to be years at that point. There was kind of a certainty that sports can't be gone forever. Was it gone the longest it's ever been in history? Yes, but it wasn't more than a year. And so that's kind of how we first got started building out the football side of things for play-by-play, which is very different on the coding side than how basketball was made. But all these same features were around: the chat rooms, the verified hosts, and all that stuff, which we really put in thought into the verified host part. So we created management tools in the back end for ourselves. So everything can be done from us right from here. We don't have to be on web browsers and everything. We can do everything mobilely in the app ourselves as admins, which has been great. So there's calendar tools and stuff in there where the different hosts could say, I want to request to be XYZ host for XYZ game. It comes to us as admins, no matter where we are, we can approve it, set the schedules, the notifications go out to followers. And then from there, we get our marketing team together through Slack, which we do everything through Zoom on there. So that was all remote anyway. That was pretty much equal. And well, at the time, all the marketing was me and Brittany, actually. You're going to meet later. And we didn't have, our intern staff and our graphic marketing design team and the stuff that we have now. So it was very much a 80-hour-a-week kind of job between managing coding development, the software, the regulation guidelines, which at that time too, something else that was crazy was GDPR was coming out and all the different privacy notifications, all the different rules, regulations around how data sharing, privacy settings all changed. And it was a big crackdown at the time. So I had to be very kind of out of my element, but catch up very quickly into that side of it.
Yeah.
So it was all hands on deck.
Yes, for all hours.
Yeah, pretty much.
How did you know that sports was so important that it would not only come back, because of the baseline entertainment of it, but would come back fast enough that, you guys should proceed. You should stay the course and proceed, and you would still be in business because you must have had customers using it by the time football rolled around in 2020, right? I mean, football was it up in 2020? I can't even recall.
So there were limited games. There wasn't the 12-game season. There was, about 6 to 8 games, depending on which conference you were in. The Pac-12 was one of the conferences that said they did 3 games and they're like, nope, hands are up. We're not going to do it this year. Big 10, Big 12. It was a very strange time. So especially in the operations side of sports, because the states all had different purviews around whether they would allow them. So it had nothing to do with the conferences. It was literally state regulations saying, here's our COVID regulations. And then the schools would say, should we do it? Can we do it? And so it was very much independent of for football, all the 120 FBS schools, it came down to individual schools, but there was a season. It was short, but there was a season.
Okay. And then, which probably played in your favor as you
Ohio State had 3 games.
Yes. Okay.
And they played for the Big Ten championship or whatever. So very different. Big 10, Big 12. Yeah. All that. But yeah, it was very interesting. And we did have all of our, we had fans that were on from basketball season, and college fans if you're a football fan, you're probably a basketball fan. And, beyond, just to answer your question more specifically, beyond just the monetary valuation that sports have, which is more than $1 trillion industry. I mean, it's huge. It touches every facet of life in every single market, between health, transportation, food, beverage, merchandise. They're all derivative. There's derivatives of those around sports everywhere. right? Like Fanatics doesn't own a team, but they're a multi-billion-dollar company, and all they do is merchandising and collectibles. So that's just one side of it.
Right.
So beyond the monetary thing, sports are something that is very unique that we felt there's just no way it can be gone for too long, because it's something that connects people very easily. It doesn't matter what your background is, how much money you make, what color your skin is, what sex you are, what race you are. It doesn't matter. You're there together rooting on your team, and so we're like, that type of connection is just, it's never going to go away. It can't just be gone. And so people and the industry will find its way back for sure, quicker than most.
Yeah.
And that was really our conviction around it, was the fact that that type of connection people have between through sports is more important and will push the return to normalcy faster than anything else.
Yeah. I love going to a game and, sit down in your section of strangers and you leave in your section of acquaintances, because you've all been
Yeah.
rooting, even if, you're, I've gone to games where I'm in the visitor, I'm in the visitors area. So I'm surrounded by strangers, I know what I'm up for. So, they're going to
Yeah.
harass the whole game
And
and
everyone's there to disconnect from,
yes,
the world that's happening around them. There's
yeah,
crazy stuff happening all the time, but it's very much like I can disconnect and just be here and be simple and have fun
yes.
watching sport. It's simple, it's easy, you don't have, it's fun. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
All my friends they're always in the, what is it? Where I don't do it, that's why I don't know the name. But you're just
Like
building your
fantasy
own.
football leagues and stuff like
Thank you.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I, every one of them, I have been like, "Are you on this yet? Are you watching this?" Just to see like who I know who's already using RaveOn, because I know what fanatics they are, and they really want, like, what they like the least is taking in a game that they're surrounded with individuals that aren't really taking in the game. They're just taking in the gathering. So they're
Mhm.
talking through the game. It's like going to the movies and have someone talk through the movie. You're like, I'll just go home. So these individuals, I see them as really enjoying uh, application and becoming members. So how do they get to where they're like, hey, I want to be a host for whatever? They just submit. It's the same. Is that still in place? Is that still running?
Yeah, so it's still in place. The focus has kind of changed around a little bit more, because in 2021, the NIL market and collegiate name, image, likeness, all that came out, along with the collectives who are now our primary customers. We still have direct to consumer, so anyone can download it, but the hosting features around those spaces are more geared towards the collective partners that are now our customers, our primary customers. So it is a little bit different, but the process by which we activate people, verify people, and all that is still the same. It's very much, hey, here is, they actually call us or Zoom with us. We meet them and we're like, we know it's you. It's not some fake account, so every
Right.
single person that's verified is 100% them. You don't have to worry about if it's someone's like manager or somebody who's just creating an account and is trying to run it for them. They're actually the person that's on.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get that. And that was the big change that occurred in 21, 22 was
Yeah.
just requirement for validation, I suppose.
Well, basically what we ended up seeing was we had insane, interaction and engagement numbers on the app. So like the average person, when they log into the app, they spend and it's maintained this, it goes up, but 118 minutes per session on the app when they log in. So when people get into the app, they start actually commentating, engaging with other people. They're there for the whole game and then some, for the
Mhm.
most part. And during things like March Madness, big tournament times, that engagement number goes up. So we knew we had something that was really engaging. And then in 2021, when legislation was passed for NIL, which again, this is more into my background,
Mhm.
because we knew it was coming. We just didn't know when the states would adopt laws, and then when the student athletes themselves would start to be able to really create profit, or not profit, well, create profit around it, but really use it to their own advantage. So once the collective system started evolving, which was right, around 2022, so 2021 law gets made in place, and then states start ratifying their own versions of the California law. So once all that started happening, different states started putting together these collectives, which are groups of boosters or fans who would pool money together, try to collect, go to different brands, sponsors, whatever, and connect them with the athletes so that they can get paid in order to use their name, image, likeness to represent a brand and create ROI that otherwise they literally by law couldn't actually do.
Right.
And I don't want to get into all the legal stuff around it because that would be like another 2 hours on the history of all of it and everything. But when that segment came out, when Collective started coming out, we saw that, what they were doing with the athletes, they were doing a fairly good job at getting them brand deals. But there's a big difference in keeping or getting a brand deal through your name, image, likeness, and keeping it. Keeping it involves work and engagement and follow-up, whether it's on social media or just through normal promotion or anything else. So you have to engage back with the fans and customers on behalf of the brand. And that's how you can keep a deal long-term more than anything. And so we really saw the suite of tools that we had built out as a big positive for the collectives and their athletes. So we started approaching collectives in our own state in 2022 around bringing them on, giving them access to the software, which they're, our own ad engine, different things around that, and creating a virtual package for them that they could help use on behalf of the student athletes and the collective, the collective partners and sponsors, so that they could really give the fans these types of engagement tools. In return, the sponsors get a higher ROI and the athletes get an easier way of engaging with the fans. And the collectives have a virtual way of trying to boost membership tiers. So actually giving displaced fans a reason to become members. Up until that point, they had really been using in-person events or, ticket sales, things that were really limited to their primary marketing area, which was a certain radius around the college. So they were limiting themselves to what types of members might be attracted to that small monthly fee. So like if you're in Denver, Colorado, you can never go to a physical event, probably, because you're not going to fly halfway across the country. Maybe you're not going to spend that $20 a month because all you're really going to get is a shirt. Now you can actually have, private virtual events with the athletes, gated, public, whatever the collectives want to do on our platform. And that gives you the value that you would want to have to support the athletes and give you those unique experiences throughout the season and month. Right. So we're really giving them the value to try to extend out those memberships to help out the athletes and their own brands, schools, collectives, et cetera.
Yeah. Very cool. And just to touch on this, so if you're in every state, you're a national product at the very least. So each state who has its own attempt to, well, we'll do it this way. They write their own, law for how they handle it. You have to figure out how to appease or operate within each state's laws. Is that correct? Does that sound correct?
So we on the back end side of how data privacy and all that stuff works, yes. When it comes to how the athletes, are working with the sponsors and complying with NCAA regulations versus tax regulations and all that, the collectives still do that for the most part.
Okay.
We can connect our software into existing compliance and reporting software if they want to use it and makes it a little bit easier. But for 99% of it, the collectives still do that. We deal with the data privacy laws and all the other stuff that on the software side, they really don't want to have to deal with, but we have to deal with that.
Yeah. Are you guys international already? I mean, are you covering hockey?
So we don't have hockey coverage yet. It's still football, basketball. We're looking to extend out different sports. We've had people ask us for softball, baseball. I mean, like everything under the sun. We are international in the sense that anyone can download the app from North America, Europe, and Germany, I believe, for the most part. There's like the three main regions. So even if you're like you live overseas, you could download the app, use it in London for all your college teams. That's not an issue. But we don't have specific international sports right now. We don't have like Olympic basketball, for example, don't have that in there. So we're still very much a college North American focused sports provider as of right now.
Yeah. Well, it's still, that is huge in and of itself. And so when you think, the 4 years, like, you're basically 4 years from that initial kickoff into the harsh year. So many companies that started in 2020. I mean, as you can imagine, many just could not figure out how to pivot and survive, how to build in the absence of activity, to expand their thought and take that time. And that just took resources and determination for you to survive through that period. Now, as it's growing, I'm sure your role is changing.
Yeah, a little bit. So what we've really had to focus on now is a lot more on the fundraising side and just the operations sales side of stuff. So originally it was, all right, we need to get development done, marketing done. And now we've kind of switched, we have, all that's kind of on autopilot. We can put it that way for the best terminology. So really when it comes to the founding team, we've really switched over into doing the sales side, the fundraising side of stuff, which has all of its own unique challenges, as everybody well knows, if for startup founders. And so that's really what's kind of changed over for us on the management side.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Since we're into the 30 minutes, and I try to keep these things short, just so that the listeners or viewers, I just think it's hard for individuals to sit through more than 30 minutes of something unless it's a really good game and you've got peers and you're having fun with it. Let me ask. I've got two questions I'll ask in closing, so that again, you're still like wearing different hats. You're changing yourself to be able to adapt to, so this is what your company needs from you today, and this is what your company's going to need from you for the next quarter, that sort of thing. That ability to see what is needed and be flexible and not drown in it or overthink any one task. How do you do that? How do you, if someone was asking, man, how, what would you say? How do you do that?
I think it is a little bit unique to everybody. I would say probably the best thing is, one, have a good team around you, for sure. That makes everything easier. Recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses and go with them. Everyone should try to learn more around their weaknesses. Like Brittany will tell you this. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a super fan of it. It didn't really interest me, but I had to learn how to do the marketing from her for the most part, because you have to be able to lean on each other as a founding team, because not everybody can be working 100 hours a week or 80 to 100 hours a week, whatever else it is. Can't be doing these sprints all year long for years at a time. Everyone has to take breaks, otherwise you just get burnout really bad, and that really throws a wrench into founding teams. So number one, having a great team around yourself is great. Be willing to learn the things you don't know, but you got to step up when it comes to your strengths and really follow through. A great team really designates and says, okay, here's jobs and duties, assign them to each person and follow through on it and be responsible and have great communication around it. That is probably the top three things that we really had to do in order to basically make it through one of the toughest times in my lifetime, my parents' lifetime. I mean, when it came to business in COVID, it was bad. Like,
yes,
lots of businesses that started around the same time we did, or even before it, all had to shut down, never got their feet back up. I'm sure if you've talked to other founders around the time, fundraising was absolutely abysmal. It still is actually not caught back up yet. When it comes to the startup life, pre-seed, angel, seed funding has never actually come back. AI is out now. And so that's driven some of the IPO market or some of the funding dollars back into the seed market, pre-seed market, but it still has not really caught up. And so that was one of the other challenges we had to do, which was we bootstrapped everything. And then when we did want to fundraise, which we're still trying to finish out our convertible note, but when we did want to fundraise, one of the biggest questions everybody had was, there's no sports. How can we fund you? Like you're, exactly right. They're like, well, your business, the business that you revolve around for these engagement features, like it's not there. And then one of the best questions we got, which had absolutely nothing, it was a pointless question, but someone asked us, well, if people can't go back to the games, how can you survive as a business? And I literally, it was one of those moments you look at them and you're like, you should not invest in us. You don't understand what's going on. Like we don't want your money. Let's be clear on that. Like you would not be a good, investor for us. And so, run into that type of stuff too.
Yeah. If they say part of good business management is the ability to know which client to escort out, to say this isn't the product you want. You don't want this product. So yeah, good on you. Awesome. I love it. I really appreciate it. Let me ask you this: if someone wants to get a hold of you, James, if they, investors or just curious folks, someone that wants to align with you for whatever reason, how do you prefer them to reach out? Your website, your LinkedIn, what's your preference?
So all of our business handles on all socials is just at RaveOn Sports, RaveOn Sports. So whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, X, doesn't matter, they're all there. You can find me personally, just James Clark on LinkedIn. That's a good way. You can, send a request with a note on there and, send me any information that way, or you can send it through the business page as well.
Awesome.
Those are going to be the best ways. I don't check my Instagram enough, to be honest with you, for DMs, but you can feel free to follow me. If you probably heard my dog, but he's mostly the thing on my Instagram account. So.
Awesome. Well, James, thank you. To the listeners and viewers out there, I'll let that wrap up another episode of The Balancing Act. And thank the viewers for participating if they've checked it out. If you did like it, please subscribe so that you'll be informed of if and when there's a new interview that gets posted out there. And until next time, stay in balance.